G'day Bomber fans. So we got some more list changes to talk about today. In the last month or so I've gone over the men's trade and draft in detail. I've gone over the women's trade and draft in detail. And now I'm going to highlight all the changes our reserves team has made, because it actually seems like for the first time in a little while that we are actually trying to get our VFL program and side up and running, and I think that's important. I think to build a winning culture, you need to be winning across the board at the club in the AFL, AFLW, and VFL. You need to have heads around the club at all levels that know what winning is. So hopefully the changes we've made can push us up the ladder in the VFL. I honestly think they should as well. So let's go through what we did as a club, who we brought in over the off-season. So let's start with our coaches, because we obviously lost Blake Carousella to Richmond, which wasn't really working too well anyway, but I'm not going to blame him. It's not his fault. I think it was more so the players he had at his disposal. So Carousella is gone. It now means that our former assistant coach, Dale Tapping, has actually stepped into a new role as the head coach of our reserves team, the VFL, which is exciting. It's a good step into his, desire to coach senior footy. You'd think he would want to do that if he's in coaching anyway, so it's a good move for him to help steer our younger players in the right direction. He's a very popular coach, by the way. The players really like him, so he's going to be the head coach of the VFL. And another familiar face is back at the club to help him out, because Ricky Dyson, our former number 2 and something I'd forgotten, but a former VFL assistant coach, has actually returned to the club as an assistant coach again of the VFL. So this is his second stint in the role. He's just going to be playing backseat driver to Tapping and helping him lead in his first year as head coach. So yeah, Tapping and Dyson leading the way. But now let's get on to the players we brought in, and more importantly, in a way, the players we retained, starting with the latter. Alrighty, so highlighting some of the players we've re-signed to our reserves team, because unlike in the AFL where you have massive 8 or 20 or 30 year contracts, the VFL is usually just a one and done kind of thing, 1 year and then reassess. So you're signing these guys on the run, which is exactly what we did. We kept hold of our co-captains, Haitley and O'Neill, or sorry, captain and vice-captain. We also managed to bring Jack Paris and Oscar Smart back on the list as well, and those two I'm very happy with, because they were actually being discussed as potential mid-season pickups for AFL clubs last year. We also signed on Jared Eckersley, Cam Nyko, Ryan Brodie, Lockie Monteith, Ricky Monty, Matt Foley, Solomon Mackay, and Mahmoud Tahar. And of course, there is also a chance that Will Hoare regains his spot on the list if his trial for our AFL squad is unsuccessful. So that's good. A lot of our better players from last season will be with us next year, which is a big step in becoming a better VFL side. In recent years, we were kind of recycling a bit, bringing in new talent, but losing already established players. But this year, we've done really well to keep that core group of great players and bring others in. So last year, we had I believe our best and fairest winner, and I think someone else on the podium depart. There were some notable absentees. But this year, everyone on the podium, everyone that won an award on best and fairest night, they're still at the club. So as good as some of the signings I'm about to talk about are, I'm actually most pleased that we keep guys like Haitley and O'Neill and Paris and Nyko. It's good to see. But yeah, let's get on to the fun bit. Let's talk the new signings. So going to go through this list one by one in order of when they came to the club per the Essendon website. So we start with the early ones, and arguably, no offense to these guys, but the least noteworthy. So Harry Sinnott, he is a former Geelong and Carlton VFL player. He's very young, just 20 years old, and in his short career, he's already made a bit of a name for himself through his fitness. In a time trial a year or two ago, he ran a sub 6 minute time, which is just absolutely nuts. You shouldn't be that fit. That probably makes him, by that metric, the fittest on our list, both VFL and AFL. Sinnott joins as a young gut-running outside mid or half-back. Charlton Offermans, he was actually a part of Gold Coast Academy back in the day, but after being left away from the draft, he moved to America to pursue basketball. He is now back and with our VFL squad, 25 years old, very athletic. And Noah Scott, so he's a young one. He was actually playing for the Calder Cannons last year, which is Essendon's Talent League sister club, so he would have played alongside Isaac Kako and Jaden Newen, so there's a good little bit of chemistry built there already. Nick Quigg, he was with the GWS VFL team last year after captaining the Murray Bushrangers in the Talent League in 2022. He played 15 VFL games for the Giants last year in the midfield. Quite a young prospect, so not yet hitting his strides. Then we move on to the big ones in my eyes, starting with Tyler Sellers, North Melbourne mid-season draftee who was delisted last year. He's going to come in and give us much needed strength in the forward line. I think this is just a great signing for the VFL, maybe even my favourite of the bunch. This is a guy that just made reserves level footy, he's just made for reserves level footy, sorry, so he should be a force up forward. He kicked 60 goals from 30 odd VFL games, so it's a massive get for the club. It doesn't end there for former AFL players, because along with the signing of Tyler Sellers, we also announced the signing of former Carlton rookie Dominic Akui. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. He was on Carlton's list for 3 years before being delisted, but he is now joining us, a little rival get. He he's a super athletic bloke, this guy, 194 centimetres, but he can play in a range of different positions. A very promising athlete. We also picked up a bloke I've spoken about on the channel before, actually, Dayton Ureta. I talked about him being a possible mid-season draftee last year for the club, or a target. He was the captain of the Bendigo Pioneers, and he now joins us as a 19-year-old. I can see him playing a bit next year, though. I think he's got really good attributes that can be useful for our VFL side. I also don't think his AFL career is dead, mind you. I don't think he's a walk-in starter right away, but good midfield depth and a good head to have around the club as well. And finally, to round out the signings, we have Riley Leadham, another quarter cannons boy in through the doors, a big boy too, 195 centimetres, very stocky and tough to beat in a one-on-one. He kicks goals and is really tough and grunty. He apparently had a block of 3 games where he laid 20 tackles, which for a key forward is just great. You love to see that. So he joins our squad. He is the most recent signing, but maybe not the last. I don't know if the squad has been finalised yet. I don't know if Will Hoare will be there or not. We're going to see. But yeah, it's a good bunch of signings, a few promising players, a few former AFL players, some blokes who missed out on the draft, and some tied to our quarter cannons, which is good as well. I'm happy with this. As I said, we retained the services of our best players and managed to add the talent by bringing some of these guys in. If I had to pick one or two that I'm most excited about, it's probably Tyler Sellers, obviously, and then after that, Dayton Ureta. So let me know down below what you think, but I reckon those two could be really handy for us. Yeah, so that is that. Just a tiny little VFL update. Let me know what you think down below. I know most probably don't care about the VFL, but I do think it's really important for the club to be building on a strong foundation across all lists. The AFLW is already doing fine. They're doing alright. They've made 2 finals in a row despite injury. But both the AFL and the VFL have been quite poor for a few years now. So for the men to succeed, we need to see them both trying to improve both lists. And I think we've done that in the case of the reserves. So yeah, that is that. Cheers for watching as always. Make sure you like if you enjoyed. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. And as always, go Bombers.